Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and today I'm going to do a pull planning video for the month of June. So I'm going to talk about what I'm going to pull for and maybe what I'd recommend you guys pull for this month. The first thing I'm going to say, and I've said this before, this month is pretty jam-packed, and I feel like all of the characters this month are like very close to each other in terms of like meta relevancy and what you can do. So a lot of what you're going to do this month is going to depend on personal preference and what you want. I don't think that there's anyone this month that I would say is like kind of like a Rubicante or Quina level where it's like, yep, you must have these characters. But at the same time, there isn't really any like super dud characters either. Like all these characters are actually quite good. So I'm going to kind of talk about the characters, summarize them a little bit, and then talk about if I think I'm going to pull for them or not, right? So the first thing we're going to see here is we're going to see Rex and Garnet. Rex is basically, well, we'll go over Garnet first, I suppose. So Garnet, a lot of you are already familiar with, but Garnet is still to this day, one of the best supports in the game. She has Echo, BT, all that stuff. She's not getting a rework here, but doesn't need it. Her Force Echo is still fairly recent. She's a very incredibly good character, a lot of battery, a lot of healing, really insane follow-ups, really strong BT auras. Gets a nice follow-up at the end of her BT, and then you get a nice gold buff at the end of it. Garnet is just a really, really good, fantastic character that I feel like you can't go wrong having her in your box, right? So obviously, I'm not going to pull for Garnet because I've got her built. But if you are somebody who doesn't have Garnet, I think she's a great character to have in your box, and I would highly recommend you all get her. She's so good, right? Then we have Rex. Now, Rex is a cover tank. And tanks, as you guys know, are very valuable characters in this game, right? Now, Rex, I do think, has a few flaws that I would maybe put Rex below other tanks. And I would say Rex probably isn't a must-pull for a tank, just because Rex is missing a couple of things that I do like from the best tanks in the game. If you look at like what the best tanks in the game do, they either completely mitigate damage or they counter or a combination of both, right? Now, Rex has follow-ups, which like on their own turn he's going to do some follow-ups, and he does do like damage mitigation, and he is a cover tank, right? But he still can maybe get caught himself. He does mitigate, but he doesn't completely cancel out damage, and he's not countering, which is one of the big things that you like to abuse, right? And I talked about this with Zac, where like Zac is amazing. Zac like completely nullifies damage, has undead zombie mode, whatever. But the thing I've always said that I didn't like about Zac was that he doesn't counter. At least with Zac, though, he's got like really insane on-turn damage to kind of compensate for that, right? Now, I don't know if Rex is going to be hitting like Zac levels of damage. I'm sure he's going to do solid damage. But I think Rex is a character that you actually could pass on, especially if you have other tanks. Now, if you're a newer player and you don't have tanks at all, I think having a tank in your box is very valuable. You might want to grab Rex. Now, for me personally, like Rex is a character that I'm probably, like for the most part, going to skip on. But because he's a new character, sure, I'll pull a little bit to at least try to get the LD. Hopefully the free draws are good to me, but I don't think I'm going to go very hard on Rex personally. I don't think I'm going to go all in for the BT or anything crazy like that, right? Rex also is lightning damage. So Rex has lightning, enchant, and peril. This can also be a weakness on Rex. I think it's a plus and a weakness, right? The weakness of it is, like a lot of these other really good tanks in the game, right? We're talking about like Gladio, Oron, characters like that. They don't have elements tied to them, which is actually good because you can use them like anywhere, right? But the good thing about it is sometimes like having Enchant and Peril is very good for certain fights to help you meet force conditions, things like that. For example, Rex's Force is going to want lightning damage while he actually enchants the party for lightning, so that's really good. He enables the party to fit his Force very, very well. So the fact that he has an element attached to it could make you like Rex a little bit less, could make you like him more. It just depends. But the bottom line is Rex isn't one of these. I wouldn't say Rex is a top tier like meta-defining tank, but he's going to do his job well enough if you want to pick him up. I do think that there are better tanks out there, right? It just depends on what you want there. So I'd say Rex definitely isn't like a must-pull. I think he actually is skippable even though he's a tank. I think Garnet, though, for like players that don't have her, I think Garnet is a really, really good pickup that you should get. Then we have Rem and Vaughn. Now, I think these banners are actually pretty loaded. And just so you guys know, I'm not talking about like the side banner characters here. I will do individual should you pulls. And then in that, I'll talk about the banner characters and strength of the banner there. But here I'm just talking about like for main characters, right? Now, some of you have already heard me say this, but I'm just a big fan favorite for Rem. Like I really like Rem a lot. So I am for sure going all in on Rem. I want FR, BT, the whole nine. I'm going to use her a lot. I really, really like her, right? Now, Rem, what she does is kind of crazy. So her base kit is that she does really big burst heals. Okay, and she does a swap turns ability. And her swap turns basically allows her to swap with another player on the team, so a lot of turn manipulation. And then it also is her it's weird because Garnet's kind of in a middle space with her force charging, right? Because her swap turns and her cure, they're like instant turn abilities, but because swap turns kind of gives another player a turn, it doesn't force charge, I think, as much as a normal force charging, but it is definitely a bump from a standard move. So I would say I would still consider Rem a force charger. She's got a lot of between swap turns and cure, which is like an instant turn. She can take a lot of free turn spam, ramp up your gauge. She just can't do it maybe as quick as like a standard force charger. But I still like her for that, right? And then Rem also does do like follow-ups with her LD, which is really good. It really helps her damage out. Because without her LD, like her damage was pretty much like minimal, like to none. But with her LD, like she did get follow-ups for damage with it, which I think is a really nice touch to her kit, right? Now with her BT upgrades, she gets this party EX spam thing where like while her BT effect is up, every time she takes a turn, she full recharges the party's EX gauge, which is insane. And it actually combos really well with another character named Iris, which I'm going to talk about later in this video. But there are other characters too that just have like really good EXs that are maybe slow charging. Like Rem can really help with that. There's a lot of utility in what Rem can do, being a total turn manipulator and having the EX spam, which is really crazy. She's got really nice auras, and she gives the whole party the undead effect where they can't die. So she literally makes it so the party can't die. I think there's a lot to like about Rem. I think she's going to be a really nice, fun character. I'm for sure going all in on her. Now, once again, I think she's going to fall into the same place a lot of characters will this month. I could see the justification for going all in on her, and I could see like her being also skippable, right? Even though she does all of this amazing stuff, is she the best support character in the game? No, probably not. I probably still think you'd rather have like Garnet over her, to be honest. But I really, really like her, so I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to go in and grab Rem. I think I could recommend her this month. I think she's going to be a really nice character. Now, I do have a lot of bias. I do really like her, but I think her kit is very fun, unique, and it offers a lot to the party. And she has the type of kit that has longevity, right? And so when you guys are looking at like who you're pulling for in a month, you're always safer pulling for a character that has longevity because you're going to get a lot more use out of them, right? Whereas if you just pull for a straight up damage dealer, like they're going to be really good for a while, but they're the characters that phase out the quickest, right? Support characters, utility characters, defense characters, right? Tanks. Like these are the type of characters that if you're really not sure who to pull for, these are the characters I would lean towards because they're going to last longer. And Rem's always had really good longevity just because her main mechanic is swapping turns and letting other characters do the work, right? So even if Rem is like really phased out, like I used her in Lufenia era when she was like bare bones, like LD only character, like in Force era when she didn't have a Force or anything. I've used her in more modern content because she can just swap turns and let other characters get more turns and be really busted, right? So even as her numbers and stuff starts to fall off, like there's going to be use for her, and her BT effect really won't age. Like charging EXs of newer characters always a good thing. Not being able to die, always a good thing, right? These are effects that don't really age. They're not dependent on damage. So yeah, Rem is a nice investment. I would just say that, right? Then we got Vaughn. Vaughn is already an FRBT character, but he's getting Echo, which really helps. I consider Vaughn to be one of the strongest single target DPS characters in the game. He is a magic damage dealer. He does put blind on the enemies, which is really good. Does, once again, a lot of brave hits, a lot of damage. His main mechanic is giving himself a brave floor where as he extends his brave out, he doesn't go down to 0 brave. He'll actually retain a bunch of the damage he does so that he can't go below, I think it's like 20 or 30%. Things like that, right? Now with Vaughn's rework, his BT does get some notable upgrades, most notably like a really good HP damage up on it. And then his Brave Retain, I believe he had it at like 30%, like Brave Floor, and now it goes up to like 50%, which is really crazy because he's doing a ton of dumps and it really helps him do a lot of damage, right? Now, that being said, the thing with Vaughn that a lot of people don't like is he's got a bunch of elements in his kit, and it's like kind of scattered. I think he's got like 4 different elements, maybe even 5. Well, yeah, I think with this EX has a 5th element. It has fire on it. So yeah, he's got a lot of elements, right? Which can be a bad thing because Vaughn is an easier character to lock out. The more elements you carry, the easier it is to get elemental locked out. So I would say that is a big flaw with Vaughn, is that he can get locked out. Now, that being said, you can still use Vaughn in lockout because his Brave Retain mechanic, and he does have Brave gains in his kit. Like, he can kind of push through that and still do a lot of damage, even if his attacks are getting absorbed. It just can get a little bit frustrating when the enemies are gaining a bunch of Brave and you need to use other characters to kind of break the enemies. So it's not an efficient way to use Vaughn, but sure, you can force him through Elemental Lockout if you really, really want to. But I would rather pick a character that just won't get locked out, right? Which we'll talk about later. There's another DPS. So Vaughn, I would say, is this. He's very strong, and if you want a very strong DPS, you definitely can go for Vaughn. And I think that his blind is a really nice utility that he has and does really come in handy, right? The thing with Vaughn that I'll say is this, as pretty much mainly being a DPS, he will fizzle out over time, but good DPSs, as we've seen with like Tifa, can last a very long time, and I think he can, but you just got to watch out for the elemental lockout with him. So the only reason I'm not saying like he's a must pull is that I do think he has some flaws with his kit, but his damage is quite good. I love Vaughn. My Vaughn's full invested. I'm obviously not pulling because I got him done. I don't need anything, but I'm going all in on Rem. So I'd say Vaughn would be kind of a preference pick, but if you really want that strong DPS, you definitely can grab him, but he will not be my top pick for DPS this month. I think there are 2 other characters that I would actually recommend over Vaughn for DPS. So that's going to be totally up to you, right? Next banner, we have General Leo and Charlotta. So General Leo is one of the DPS characters I think I would recommend over Vaughn. Leo does also specialize in single target. He does a precision strike debuff that you're kind of having on one enemy at a time, trying to keep that on them. He does do delay with that. And now with his upgrades, he gets very strong follow-ups that the whole party can trigger. So if the party is attacking the precision strike enemy, he's doing very strong follow-ups. And then the big thing about General Leo is that he has true HP damage when you're doing single target attacks. One reason his call is very good is because you can put that on a single target damage dealer, get extra true HP damage, right? So what's happening with General Leo, he's doing very good on-turn damage. He's got the true HP damage, but now his follow-ups are coming through. His follow-ups have true HP damage. He's a very abusable character. So I think General Leo would probably be like my number 1 or number 2 pick this month for DPS characters. So if you're looking for a DPS character, I think he's a very good one to go for. Being that he's Final Fantasy VI and he seems somewhat busted, I think I am going to go for General Leo myself. And yeah, I think he's a great one to pick up. Now, Charlotta is still very good. The thing with Charlotta is Charlotta, I don't believe, is getting any rework here. So the thing you have to keep in mind with Charlotta, she's very good. But I would say if you're going to like invest, because here's the thing, these characters these days, they're all pretty heavy investment. They all have BTs now. You want to invest in that. You want to green the BTs on these characters. So you have to divvy out your resources appropriately. And when I look at the characters this month, if you haven't already greened Charlotta, I don't know that there's room to put those resources into her this month. Just because I would rather have a character like Iris, who I'm going to talk about later. I would rather have Garnet. I would rather have Ram, right? Like, these are all supports I think I personally would take over Charlotta. Now, if you're not familiar with her, she's really good at Brave Gain, giving you Brave Cap overflows, all that kind of stuff. She does a lot of gravity-based attacks, right? And she has a very strong, easy-to-meet FR condition. You basically just do HP plus attacks. You're going to be Brave Gaining like crazy. Like, she's a very good character. Her BT auras are very strong. Very good support character. So if you like Charlotta, you can go and grab her and she's going to be great. But I would just say compared to what's out there this month, only because the competition is so high, I would say Charlotta is pretty much a skip here for me. And I would recommend people probably pick one of the other support characters this month. Unless you got the resources to grab her, then go ahead and do that, right? All right, next we have Iris and Tifa. Now, this set here might be like the strongest set of the month. I like both of these characters a lot. We'll start with Tifa, who I still think is the best single target damage dealer in the game. I have done videos, you guys, and if you haven't seen them, you can check them out. They're buried somewhere, but I have done videos where Tifa literally does 75 million damage in one attack during a force gauge during her BT. And it's with launching, it's with follow-up, but dude, 75 million in one attack? Are you kidding me? So Tifa, I think, is the best single target damage dealer. Now, I'll look at Vaughn again with his rework. He's probably competing with her for sure. Vaughn's always been kind of neck and neck with Tifa, very good, but I've always found Tifa to be a little bit better. This is an example of Tifa coming back. She's like Garnet, where her Echo is fairly recent still. Like, her and Garnet were around the same time. They're coming back, no rework or anything. They don't need it. Tifa's still probably my #1 favorite DPS character in the game. And she's non-elemental, which makes her a little bit easier to use than Vaughn. But you want a full investor. Her BT effect is important to give her those really insane double follow-ups. So I would say I could highly recommend. I would say Tifa and General Leo if you're looking DPS. That's what I would be gunning for this month if I were you for DPS characters, right? Then we have Iris. So Iris is a very, very nice character, and I do think I'm going to go in on Iris. I think Iris and Rem are my two that I like really want to go hard on this month for me personally. Iris and Rem. Those are me my top two for me personally that I'm going to go for. Iris is a good support character. So Iris does healing. She does support character things that you like, right? So she does healing. She does force charging, but then she's got some other really nice things in her kit that I like. I talked about this already on the BT token guide, and some people in the BT token guide were commenting like, oh, you didn't talk about what she does with the EX. Well, the point of the BT token guide is to talk about just the BT and if the BT is worth it. I'll talk about all the other kit when I do the should you pull, right? And that's kind of what I'm going to talk about now. But her BT effect is very good. It's similar to Rem in that I feel like you can't die when it's up. And what it does is it sets the enemy's attack, defense, and max brave to 0. So the enemies are going to be hitting you for ones. Their defense is going to be non-existent, so you're going to be doing max brave damage. And their max brave can't go above 0, therefore they cannot hurt you. So the only thing, I mean, it wouldn't stop like an instant kill attack. But for the most part, you're going to be untouchable during your BT, which is really, really crazy, right? The other thing Iris has is a little bit of turn manipulation. So turn manipulation is a very valuable thing. We're actually seeing between like Iris and Rem some turn manipulation, and then between like Vaughn, Leo, and Tifa, a lot of single target focus this month, right? So we'll expect the bosses to cater to those things and want you to have those things. But the big thing that's really cool about Iris is her EX. Now what her EX does is it will copy the damage that the previous character dealt. So you always want to make sure that before you use her EX that a character acted before her and did very strong damage. This is very impactful during like a force time when you do like a really insane amount of damage during force time and then have her EX copy it. That's actually pretty dang busted. And looky here, she's comboed with Tifa, who I just mentioned has the capability of doing 70 mil shots. Well, imagine Iris popping off on the next turn, EX copying that damage, right? So Iris, I think, is a very, very nice pickup. And it's characters like Iris why I maybe wouldn't recommend Charlotta, because I think Iris is going to be a lot cooler. She's a lot more modern, more relevant, does some cooler, interesting things for the party. I think Garnet, I like Garnet a lot better. So, yeah, there's some really good pickups this month. And you can see, like, I could see the justification for pulling for any of these characters, though. They're all very good in their own way. There aren't really any duds here, right? But, yeah, I like Iris a lot this month for sure. And then finally, we're going to end off with Ursula and Chantado. Now, I do think this is probably the most skippable pair, although the characters are still very good, right? So, Chantado has been known throughout the game as being like the original Omni Imperiler, right? So Charlotta will imperil to all elements. Charlotta has multiple elements in her kit. She focuses around being on a rage mode to make her attack stronger. Through the upgrades that she's gotten throughout the years, they've made her rage mode pretty much automatic. You'll always be in that mode, get really strong attacks. What they've done now with her upgrades is she's got like a bio, an aerial attack, so a wind attack, a dark attack, that basically they all get follow-ups now, and her EX also. So like all of her main attacks will get follow-ups, basically doing the attack twice or multiple times to really help her damage. So Charlotta's damage is actually very nice. Charlotta's got poison with the bio attack. The thing that's always made Chantado nice is with the LD. It's a very on-demand paralyze. And it is a 2-turn paralyze. And it's technically not a quote-unquote paralyze. It's its own unique debuff, but it makes it so that enemies can't act. So the nice thing about Chantado is there will be some enemies that like can't be paralyzed, but it doesn't stop other named debuffs that make it so they can't act, right? Sometimes Confuse is something that gets around that. Well, Charlotta's is just a unique name, or not Charlotta, Chantado. Her debuff is just a unique named one that lasts for 2 turns. So it's pretty nice, right? And you can get that on demand with the LD, which is pretty good. And then Chantado also locks the enemies on, and I think that plays into her rage mode, because as she gets hit, it enables her rage mode and things like that. But she's not really a tank, right? So Chantado is definitely, like, to me, even with the upgrades and everything, still, like, very low end on something I would pull for this month. I would say Chantado's a lower end character, which is unfortunate because I know a lot of people like Chantado. But here's the thing. If you like Chantado, Chantado's going to do really good damage. And when I'm not recommending a character this month, it's definitely not because any of them are bad. There's just a lot of competition, right? There's a lot of good stuff out there. So it's just hard to recommend Chantado right now when I feel like the rest of this month's characters are little bit stronger. Then we have Ursula. Ursula is a character I full invested back when she got her FR. I do really, really like her. She's really about, like, she does a lot with Brave, right? So she does, she's got Brave Retain in her kit, a ton of battery. And one of the unique things that she has is when she batteries, it's actually not considered a battery. She just does an effect that sets the party's max Brave, or sets their current Brave to whatever their max Brave value is, which is really good. So, like, if there's enemies that really hinder Brave gains, she will still work because it's technically not a Brave gain. She's just setting your Brave value to whatever your max Brave is, which is really, really cool, right? And Ursula gets a BT effect, which I actually think is pretty busted. And I didn't even talk about in my BT token guide because I was expecting her not to come out till mid-July. So it's kind of crazy how far ahead we are on the schedule right now. But what it does is when her BT effect is up, to me, it kind of reminds me of Quina in a little bit, but I like Quina's better. But what it does is, after any HP attack you do, it sets your Brave to your max Brave value. So literally every HP dump, you're getting the max damage out of it. Which that's the part to me that feels like Quina. The reason why Quina's is better, though, is you just do the max HP damage. It doesn't matter what your Brave is, and it kind of ignores really hindering effects that the bosses have. Whereas Ursula's will still get hindered. Like if a boss says reduce HP damage by whatever percent, like, it's going to negate that, right? Whereas Quina, it doesn't really get negated. Quina will get over a lot of really nasty effects. But this Ursula effect is very, very good. Just ensure you are constantly at max Brave. Very, very abusable effect to just be always capped out like that, right? So Ursula does have a little bit of turn manipulation as well in her kit. So she's a fun little character. She can force charge. She does a lot of battery, things like that. So she's a nice support character as well. And I know a lot of people are excited for Ursula. So she's a character, to me, she's kind of like in the middle this month, where, like, if you really like her and want to use her, I think you're going to get really good use out of her. But I think she is actually skippable. So if you don't want to pull for her, I don't think you have to. I think this Chantado Ursula set here, I think, is pretty skippable if you want to do that, right? So to kind of summarize, and I guess I should talk about me personally, I'm not going to pull probably for either of these characters because I already have their kits. Chantado, I don't have the FR because that's new, but I'm pretty sure I got Chantado BT in rest of the kit. And Ursula, I've got the whole kit, but not the BT. But for me personally, I don't think I'm going to chase her BT. If I have tokens ready to go, maybe I'd consider it. But I'm way more excited, I think, about other characters than Ursula this month, right? So to recap, I think the characters I'm most excited for are going to be Iris, Leo, and Rem. Those are my top 3 picks for me personally, the characters I'm willing to invest the most on this month. Everything else, I think it's kind of personal preference. So yeah, you guys let me know what you're going to pull for this month. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts and my recommendations. Let me know what you guys all think, what you're going to do. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.